Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. And in this update, we are going to check out Cardano's price chart, and unfortunately, what we expected pretty much played out. But on the other hand, there might be some optimistic signs in here. You see, if you remember the last time that we talked about Cardano, we were right around these areas, and the idea was that let's actually go real quick on, I think it was Coinbase's chart. Yes, the idea was this seems to be kind of a slow and choppy move on the upside. So odds are we are dealing with a correction structure into our wave 4, and I think in the previous video we talked about the idea of having maybe an ABCDE, since it does actually have a happening of into wave 4 and then, well, another move down into wave 5. So what happened? I think it is safe to argue we definitely did not get a triangular structure, but this absolutely turned out to be a correction. And for the shape of it, I think we should probably consider, excuse me, sorry about that one, maybe a WXY in form of a flat and a zigzag. And the question is, am I able to argue maybe in Cardano we have hit the lows? The answer is yes, and I'm going to tell you in a bit why I can argue that. But before that, I think if you want to be a little bit flexible with the rules, you are also able to argue maybe as opposed to a WXY, possibly this can be an ABC in form of a zigzag as well. Trust me, this will actually come handy in a minute. Now, why is it that in ADA we are allowed to be a little bit optimistic? Because in terms of Ilios waves, if you want to argue that we're going to have our final low around here, maybe this is like a very important support, then okay, off of the lows, you have to be able to find a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside. This specific scenario is called an impulsive movement. Rules for it are we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4, and in any kind of 5 wave or wave 3 simply is not allowed to be the smallest wave. And in terms of the sub waves, if you are a regular viewer of the channel, you know what I'm about to say. We're gonna have 5 up into wave 1, 3, and 5. Okay, and for wave 2 and 4, we can consider different scenarios. Let's say maybe WXY into 2 and an ABC into wave 4. Now, here's a very important point. After completing a 5 wave on the upside, sure, you are allowed to be a little bit optimistic, but having this thing only, it's not really enough. You need to be a bit more patient and wait for a pullback, and you need to pay full attention to the shape of that pullback. Okay, if we end up having in here a bit of a slow and choppy move down, that could be a great sign indicating on a higher degree. Hopefully we are having 5 up into 1 correction for wave 2, and then great move up into wave 3, 4, 5, generally suggesting that the bottom is there. Now let's go on the live chart and see why is it that we are allowed to be a little bit optimistic. Now, maybe it's best to go on 15-minute time frame and zoom out a little bit more. So I think we can all safely assume that we are having in here, excuse me, from this point an ABC in form of an expanded flat, and this is 1, this is 2, this is wave 3, ABC flat for 4, another move up into wave 5. So as you can see, the fact that we are able to find off of the recent lowest low in ADA about, let's say, 37 cents, a 5 wave is definitely an optimistic sign. The real question, on the other hand, is this: can we argue this is like a correction structure? Right now, I think it's a little bit too soon to jump into those kinds of conclusions, since I think that probably our move down is going to continue. Now, if our move down is going to continue, okay, one way or the other, whether in the short term we are having a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or maybe some sort of an ABC or a WXY after this short-term phase down, I do think we are going to have a bit of a bounce. Now, I want to be very clear. The bounce itself that we are going to get soon in the next couple of days in ADA is actually kind of predictable. It doesn't really matter a whole lot. What really matters is, yet again, the shape of that bounce. If we end up having from, let's say, these levels in Cardano, like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a very strong move without a lot of overlapping of the waves, that could actually go quite a long way, I would say, to confirm that, yep, hopefully the final low is set. On the other hand, though, if we end up having, after maybe another small move down, a bit of a slow and choppy bounce, okay, that's actually a bit of a dangerous sign, suggesting that maybe this is 5 down into 1, this is correction for 2, and what's next? maybe another move down into wave 345 in order to once more, unfortunately, clear the lowest low in here about 37 cents, and we may end up going quite a bit lower than that. Now, let's say we are going to have something like this in ADA and we are actually bearish in the short term. At that point, wait a minute, I just said that this is a 5-wave up, right? Well, here's the situation. Even at that point, I'm going to still argue this is a 5-wave. I'm just going to say maybe we are having an ABC expanded flat, which looks like this. This is our initial move up into a correction for wave B, which in it we are going to take this initial low and then a rather strong move up into C, and in it, as you can see, we are going to clearly take the height of our A leg, and in terms of the sub waves, ABC into A, ABC into B, followed by a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside into C. And now you realize, why did I tell you at the beginning of the video that there is a chance that maybe this is going to be an ABC on the upside, because it might be on higher degree into a wave A, ABC down into B, and a 5 wave up into C, and this point might end up being the end of our wave 4. So the question is, based on what we talked about, number one, how exactly can we say whether in Cardano the bullish or maybe the bearish scenario is in play? And number two, let's say we are going to get like a very strong move down and we are actually bearish in here. At that point, how strong our move down in ADA is going to be. So let's actually answer the second question first, because overall, I don't really think that our move down in Cardano is going to be like that strong and that deep. And generally, if you believe in Cardano, I think these areas are actually great opportunities for accumulating more and more ADA, not necessarily for the short-term bounce that we are going to hopefully get, but for actually the mid to long-term structures, because I do think that in Cardano, after we hit the lows, hopefully that is going to happen soon, we are going to witness some great moves on the upside by the end of this cycle and a decent target for it. I think it is fair to assume that it's going to be taking the highest high in here about, let's say, $1.3, but I think we are going to go probably quite a bit higher than that. So essentially you are having maybe like a 300% target, but on the other hand, let's say like a 50% stop loss. So your risk to reward ratio is actually not that bad. That's why I think around the lows, again, assuming that you believe in the fundamentals of Cardano, these are great buying opportunities for the mid to long term, and downsides overall, in my view, are quite limited. Now, having said that, there's actually a way to identify what might be the next likely move in ADA, and that comes down to indicators. First things first, let's go on weekly charts. Okay, so what do we have in here? As you can see, in the last couple of weeks, we actually had two strong red candles, not necessarily ideal, but then we started to have a bit of a green candlestick, and the candle that we are right now having is actually showing uncertainty and essentially, I would say, a balance between bears and bulls. So overall, I'm going to argue the last two candlesticks in weekly time frame do not really signal a whole lot, and I think you are going to get your answers in the next coming week, and whether we are bullish or maybe bearish or not. Now, in terms of indicators, in MACD, we are having definitely still this sell signal, not ideal, and in stock RSI, sure, we did get a buy signal, so technically this can be an optimistic sign, but again, if you want to be bullish with more confidence, I would like to suggest just be patient in case you don't really care about the short-term price action and see buy signals in these two indicators at the same time. At that point, I'm going to say with a decent bit of confidence that, yeah, you know what, we have hit the lows. Now, in daily time frame, okay, we are having pretty much the opposite situation, meaning a buy signal in MACD and a sell signal in stock RSI. So because of this sell signal, I'm going to say our move down in ADA can continue a little bit, but that's not really the point. I think the real important sign actually comes down to MACD in H4 time frame. So what do you have in here? Let's just do this. Okay. On the live chart, we are having, as you can see, a low. The other one is a lower low. But in MACD, what do you have? Yep, this is a low. The other one is actually a higher low, indicating we actually have a great looking bullish divergence, and this is the line for it. There we go. Now, here's a very important point. A bullish divergence by itself is a fantastic sign, indicating hopefully we have hit the lows. But on the other hand, if we end up going down and we get a break of this important divergence line, at that point, number one, don't really count on the bullish divergence to play out and send us up. And number two, as a result of the break of the bearish divergence line, you actually need to expect a rather strong move on the downside in order to take all the loss. And I do think that if we want to go down in ADA, we are actually going to break this bullish divergence line first, and then we are going to take the loss. So again, this is, in my view, definitely a very important sign that at least right now, for like very short term, if you want to know what might be the next likely move, you need to pay full attention to it. As long as we are not breaking it, count on a move down. God forbid if we end up breaking it, count on a continuation of this phase on the downside in ADA in order to take the loss, but maybe after it we are going to end up going quite a bit lower than that. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Cardano. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.